Hey guys, another video for our Buying a House in Japan playlist. As some of you would already be aware, that forest there at the back is about to disappear and there's not much we can do about it. So what we've been looking at is what we can do. So on the right there we have some fairly serious bamboo that stands about 5 meters tall. But this bamboo on the left here doesn't grow as high. It's probably about as high as it's going to get, maybe a little bit more. So we want to remove it and put something in that's going to grow better. So some of you would know we were searching for some trees recently on the Faffing Professionals video. We're searching for some trees. We're looking for some hakanmaki. Actually, at that stage we're looking for some inumaki. We found hakanmaki, which is called a Buddhist tree or the Buddha tree in English, apparently, as also some other names as well. We like the Buddha tree though, that sounds pretty cool. But it grows pretty well. We've already got a couple of them in the garden and they grow pretty fast. And if you put them close together, they grow up and make sort of a wall. So they can grow to 7 meters apparently. So got the unskilled gardener, he tried to do it by hand at first and it was just too slow. So I got out the machine. Cut it down. Now bamboo, those of you who have worked around bamboo before, you have to be fairly aggressive with it to stop it coming back, otherwise it'll just keep coming back again and again. So we want to cut it out and then we have to remove all the roots and put in a barrier to stop it growing back again, because it will if you let it go. So the bamboo on the right there's a different type, but in amongst it is some of this shorter stuff. And we don't want the shorter stuff or the taller stuff coming. Did you see the two ladies stop and look then? Don't know what they were doing. They were selling something. They could have been Christians. Very, very occasionally we get some Christians turn up door to door selling Christianity. So unskilled gardener getting rid of all the bits. So we can bundle it all into a big pile of boxes in the back of the car and take it off to the city dump, city garbage recycling centre they call it, but it's really just a dump with some recycling going on. But it actually works out, they weigh it by the kilo when you get there anyway, so it works out better just to throw them in those bags. Oh yeah, so in amongst it, in the ground, actually in the ground, were these bee hives. In the ground, in the dirt, underneath the bamboo. And the bees got really, really annoyed, as you could understand. Quite understandably, they were very angry at the fat, unskilled labourer disturbing their hive, digging their hive up, in fact. They got really, really pissed off. They were pissed off and they were pretty angry and unhappy and buzzing around, but they weren't biting. However, so the plan was to keep them because, of course, honeybees are important, aren't they? So the plan was to restore them, get the roots out, and then restore them back to where they came from, which was done successfully. But over the period of this job, the unskilled gardener received 3 stings, and it was only because the bees got inside. Once was inside a shot, 2 times were inside a shirt, and once was inside a shoe. And they got sort of stuck and then they stung in defense and that really hurt, but it wasn't their fault. So root barrier, so dug a trench right across, dug all the roots out, dug a trench, and then that old plastic was lying around back in the storeroom, so put that in as a barrier and then put a couple of metal stakes deep in the ground and then put the bamboo on top of the metal stakes, because that looks better than a metal stake, doesn't it? And use that to give us a straight line and to give us support for our trees, which we managed to get. Oh, also a bag of cow poo, because that ground's a little bit sandy and not nutritional. So the guy at the home centre said, just put these bags in the ground like that and that they'll break down over time and you don't need to do anything. So I wasn't quite convinced, so cut the strings. So I left them in the bags, as he said, but to cut the strings just to give them a bit of freedom so that the growth wouldn't be restricted. sort of spread them out at reasonable, equal sort of distances in line with the bamboo. One thing about having a bamboo forest in your garden, you've got a never-ending supply of bamboo when you need it. So that was useful. So now the trees are happy because they're in the ground, but now I have to get rid of the rest of the roots, because if you know what it's like, if you leave any of the roots there or any of the bamboo there, it'll just come back. So just sat there, just as a bit of therapy. Sat there digging away at the roots. This grassy stuff's pretty good. We like that. So that grows from bulbs. So as you're digging the roots of the bamboo out, you come across these little bulbs. These little bulbs here that belong to the grass. So I just kept those bulbs in a little pile there. And then once the roots were all dug out, all the bamboo roots were dug out, just threw the bulbs back in the ground again and covered them up. Because they're really hardy, those things. We've got them all around the garden. They grow really well. That's a wicked tool the unskilled gardener's using there. It belonged to the old man. A lot of the tools that we found when we moved in, he had some good gardening tools. He had all sorts of good tools, bless him. So yeah, bulbs back in the ground, cover them up, give them some water. That'll be a nice little grassy bit at the front there. So they should grow pretty quickly. The other ones we planted about probably 4 years ago were about the same size. And they would be now, look at these two here, probably 2.5 to 3 meters. Pretty big. Now they're a bit far apart, so what we know now is you plant them closer together, but that's after 4 years. So just imagine these other ones after 4 years should look pretty similar, but they're really close together. So the result of putting them really close together is this. So that one's been there at least 20 years. But it looked like that 10 years ago when we saw it for the first time. It already looked like that. So it's the key. We've tried other trees in the garden, a few other types, and they get eaten by insects, and they don't like the snow, and there's all sorts of things that seem to kill them. But all the muckies that we've seen, there's a few different types of mucky, a few different types of these trees. Everyone we've seen in this area has been happy and healthy. So they seem to really quite like the climate and don't seem to be eaten by insects. So hopefully that's what will happen. So we'll keep you updated what's going on in the garden. More videos coming soon.